Hello YouTubers, Joe here on Saturday, August 3rd at 6:35 in the evening Eastern Time. And we've had a bit of an excitement here momentarily here about 15-20 minutes ago. I went to heat up some food on the stove, and last night we had this 5-pound log of hamburger that I bought probably upwards of 2 years ago. I thought, we probably ought to cook this, so I set it out in the morning yesterday, and we thawed, it thawed, during the course of the day, and then chopped off a bit of the end and put it in the cast iron skillet and, cooked it up. Of course, it's got a lot of grease with it. Now, in the olden days, i.e. meaning when the dogs were alive, or a dog was remaining, well, ideally it was all three, because they loved it when we did this, you'd cook the meat up, and you'd tilt it down, and you put the meat up to one end, you have all this fat on one end, this liquid fat. Well, you had to, take the meat out of the thing, and then I'd take the fat out over the edge of the deck and pour it down over the hill, and then, but there'd be enough left in the fry pan there, this cast iron skillet to so the boys at Girl would really love to clean out this skillet. So I basically never had to wash this skillet. By the way, I still don't, even though their dogs are dead. But when the dogs were around, the skillet was a lot cleaner. I'm going to tell you that right now. So this all goes to talk about how when I went to heat up the food here this evening, there was still a fair amount of grease. See, some grease had fallen over onto the burner and into the little pan under the stove yesterday, and it had been smoking around, but we were done, so we turned it off, and that was it. But of course, the minute I turned it on, it started smoking around again. Of course, I turn on the fans and the blowers and this, and I'm fanning it with the towel, to get the smoke to go down out the door, and then it catches fire. Well, well, that's a different thing, isn't it? When you've got a fire on top of your stove. So I tried the old, put some salt on it trick. Well, that didn't work. So we had a fire extinguisher right up there on the sidewall there. After about 2 days after we moved in, I put that thing up there, and so here's fire up this 31-year-old fire extinguisher, and psh. So that's it. That end of problem. Of course, you've got all this powder, which is it's a very corrosive powder, so you have to sort of get that off of everything as soon as possible. So spent some time cleaning that up, and you had a little tray underneath, was sort of full of powder and grease. I thought, do I want to try to salvage this tray? I said no. So I pitched that, and I went in the little supply area that I keep that has a set of these trays for the stove, and put a new tray on. So I knew I was pressing my luck. But the fire extinguisher, so I'll need to go buy a new fire extinguisher, or at least take the thing up. I guess I can have it recharged at the fire department, maybe. I don't know. Well, I'll just go buy a new fire extinguisher. It's like, $20. But thank the good Lord, all went well on that. So now, as I had said in an earlier video, my friend in North Carolina died, fell down the stairs and died. And I was waiting for to hear about his various funeral obsequies. And my ex-wife read me the obituary notice from the Columbus Dispatch yesterday, and it seems that his viewing, I don't know what would be left to view of him, I suppose some sort of taxidermy project maybe, was supposed to be today between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. down there in this Pentecostal church that he had attended for the last 2.5, 3 years. And then the funeral was going to be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday afternoon, which would be tomorrow, in that same church. And then he was going to be buried just down the road in one of these relatively new, barren cemeteries. Well, guess we're all going to end up somewhere, aren't we? So I seriously thought about, last night I thought, if you get yourself up early today, meaning today, Saturday morning, very early, and you make this 10-hour drive down there, you'll be in time at least to get down there around 7:30 or 8 for this visitation, and show the flag, and then you can stay over and go to the funeral, and then get out of Dodge later in the afternoon or evening, early evening. Go up the road about 90, 80 miles, get a room, and then come on home on Monday morning. Monday, it'd be Monday afternoon, late. But after consulting my physiology, I decided that this would not be the wise course. A live Joe in Ohio is far better than a dead Joe in a Pentecostal church in North Carolina. So that's just going to have to be the way it is. So. Now, excuse me. So this morning, Paul and I did a little rugby watching there from Australia on the computer, and Paul spent pretty much the bulk of his awake hours today either smoking on the porch or YouTubing in here. And we watched the launch of this Japanese space transfer vehicle up to the space station. Well, I watched it. Well, he watched it on his. I watched it on mine. So that's going to dock here on Friday morning very early. So it was interesting to watch how the Japanese do these things. It's not that different from ours. It's interesting. It was a hydrogen engine for the first stage with 4 solid fuel, little tiny solid fuel boosters around it, and then and this boy gets up to orbit a lot faster than. Well, of course, it's a hydrogen engine, so they get more thrust than the kerosene guys do, and there's a 2-stage thing that burns for 8 minutes. It's a little tinier, but they don't have they don't have to put as much effort out once it gets up 160 miles to get it up to speed. So it was interesting to watch that and see how other folks do things. And so that's about it. I may have to get my appetite worked back up here after this little fireman episode. Well, thank God for fire extinguishers. Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody go out and get fire extinguishers all over the place. I've got two out in the garage that I've got a spare one. I want to go out and buy a couple of new spares just because it's time to renew. I'm 31 years old and it worked just great. This isn't like a child-proof cap where you have to figure out how to get the thing to work. You just pull the pin and squeeze, I'd used one of these before when we had when we had a Cub Cadet lawnmower, which I would take down over the creek bank back in the days when you could get down over the creek bank. And that's before I got the big tractor and mow the creek bank. And this thing, had a bad carburetor, and I think it had a bad float valve in it. But as long as you carried a long screwdriver, and whenever it started to sputter, you reached in there and banged on the carburetor, and keep going. Well, eventually, one day, it's always eventually one day, isn't it? This thing caught fire, so Paul's got a series of photographs. He was up on the porch, and he took a series of photographs of this thing. The fire blazing out under the sort of the little Cub Cadet hood, and eventually one of us, I think I went down there, and I don't know, it took a while. I mean, I didn't like the thing anyway, but let this. We let this thing burn for a while, and finally figured, well, we better put this out. And so I went down with one of these. It's one of these Class C powder fire extinguishers, and blew this stuff on it. Went right out. I mean, I'll tell you, these things were very effective. And so I went down. At that point, then I was still taking the truck over the hill. I took the 4-wheel drive truck over the hill, and pulled this bastard up the hill, and so I had at that point I also had a trailer, like a put something on the back of a trailer and haul it around thing, and so I was able to haul this thing down to my mother's place, where I was able to fob it off on my nephew. I said, "You want a lawnmower?" He likes to fix things. He's very good at that, and I said, "Sure." So gave him this lawnmower, and I even hauled it up to Michigan for him, I think. And
yeah, we did.
Yeah, along with some other stuff. And so John fixed this thing, and apparently it runs this great now. So anyway, see, sometimes fire cleanses and renews. Well, now speaking of people dying, I got a message today. Well, we knew this fellow was probably going to die here. And this Paul and I had known this guy for 30-some years. Now it wasn't like we saw each other regularly or anything, but this guy had been very civil to us and gracious to us, and we had socialized with him over a number of years back in the 80s, and along with other people that we knew in common. And so he died this morning. He had some sort of intra-abdominal problem, maybe there's pancreatic or mesothelioma or fibrosarcoma or something. We don't know, I don't know, but so he died, and this is kind of like an end of an era. I mean, I got thinking about this. I mean, I'm 61 years old, and let's just say I've got another 30 years in me. Six out of great grandparents, lived well over their 90s. So it's not out of the question I might live into that era. And so this is kind of like an end of an era, and so it's like, well, what's the next strategy? What's the next set of plans? So maybe this is the old flick on the ear from God. When my son Thomas was young, when he needed to have his attention caught, I would flick him on the ear. And my dad would do that to me. That's, now of course he's doing it to his son. So, these things get passed down. But, the old divine flick on the ear something that it's worthwhile paying attention to. So I'm going to be devoting a certain amount of thought to that here. So I think that's about it. You got anything to add, Paul, from over there or over here in front of the camera if you want to come over?
No.
Okay. Well, there it is. So we'll say bye-bye now, YouTubers.